Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to Crime on the Record. My name is Jason. She is Candace, and it has been forever since we've done one of these. Uh,
Yes.
I've been nonstop with trials every single day, watching them, talking about them, and being chained to my computer all day. It's not too bad. Some of them's pretty good. Some trials are kind of not great. So if you like trials, you can hang out with us all day on our YouTube channel. If not, you can just listen to this story. Um, Babe, you've done all the research on this. I kind of just set this up to record, so I'm going to let you run it today.
Gotcha. And yeah, I would say if you're listening on our podcast, um, our intent has always been to get an episode out weekly, but it is kind of hard when you're on, streaming a trial for 8 hours a day.
Yeah.
So I would suggest, I don't know what it is you do on like app is it subscribe, follow, whatever it is, but if you do that, it'll show whenever we have an episode drop. So even if it takes a couple of weeks, you'll see when it goes out. So you can still
Yeah,
listen.
because we're pretty dedicated to the YouTube channel. I mean, we do like to throw some podcast episodes out there, but our main focus is on YouTube.
Exactly. Okay, so today we are covering the missing persons case of Logan Schiendelman. So Logan was 19 when he went missing. I saw his birthday was June 27th, 96. And oh my gosh, it just made me feel so old. Like that is 15 whole years after I was born. That is so
Yeah,
nuts. Like,
yeah, yeah,
wow.
yeah. Because it doesn't seem like people should be like over the age of like 5 or 6 if they were born in the '90s. At least that's my thought, anyway.
Right? It's
Yeah,
so nuts.
yeah.
So, Logan was mixed race, and I'm gonna explain that to you. And not because I give any kind of crap about his race, but
Mhm.
because it does come up later when people are giving, like people give. Why can I not think of words all of a sudden? A description of
There
the
you go.
person that they see. It's kind of confusing as to whether or not they were talking about Logan, and it is because he's mixed race.
Mhm.
So, mom's biracial, her mother, the grandmother, is Caucasian, and then her dad was African American or is African American. I don't know. He may still be alive. I'm not sure. Um, but then Logan's biological father is from Saudi Arabia. So, there's a lot going on.
Yeah, that's not typically something, that's not some ancestry that you're used to seeing, you
Yeah.
know. So it is interesting when I was listening to some of the podcasts and some things out there about Logan.
Yeah. And also I think it's important to note that he grew up in Tumwater, Washington, and they say that it's more than 80% white. So, I mean, that had to be a little off-putting to someone with, mixed race.
Yeah, yeah. Luckily, he was born in the '90s, so it wasn't, not by any stretch of the imagination is it easy. I'm not saying that at all. But we do progress as a society, and we are getting better. Still have a long way to go, but like when we were in school, this wasn't a normal thing to see. It was definitely different to see, biracial couples. But now, not so much. But still, like you said, I mean, in a predominantly white area, I'm sure it's still pretty tough for
Yeah.
them. Yeah.
Yeah. And, he had never met his dad. I think that his dad was here on a visa going to school when he met his mom. And they were together. And then he ended up leaving and going back. And I don't know that he knew he even had a child. I don't know that he even knew she was
Hmm.
pregnant when he left. So he didn't know his dad. And then his mom decided at some point that she wanted to attend art school, which was in another city. And so she gave guardianship to his grandmother, which I don't know how people feel about that. I've heard a lot of people speak very rudely about her leaving him, but I mean, she was trying to better herself. So I don't know.
Yeah, because I mean, there wasn't. I didn't see or hear a whole lot of that situation, other than she left him with his grandmother and then went. So I mean, it is easy to just kind of knee jerk reaction, be like, "What a terrible mother." But we don't really know the situation, what all was going on. So I'm going to reserve judgment and
Yeah,
just not focus on that.
absolutely. I mean, I remember a time where I stayed with my grandmother for a while, and it wasn't out of any lack of my mom I mean, I saw my mom every single day. We lived down the street from each other. I just decided to
Right.
stay with my grandmother when we moved out. My mom moved out, and I did not. So,
Well,
but his mom was still a really big part of his life. By all accounts, he saw her all the time. She visited him. He would go out there. So I don't think that she just ran off and left him.
yeah.
So, everybody, they say everybody loved him, that he was funny. He loved making his friends laugh. Um, I mean, he sounds like a pretty well rounded person. Wrote poetry, had a love for music, and even played defensive back at his high school. So, I mean, he's pretty much into everything.
Yeah, it sounds like him. He had a lot of stuff going on for sure.
Yeah. And he had a really close group of friends. However, during the end of his high school years, he was at a party with those friends, and a girl made a comment about his race. And his friends did not take up for him when she made this comment, which really upset him. And I totally get that.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know if you can call them friends after that.
Yeah.
I mean, like there are certain things where just like, whoa, we're not going to do that. With our friend or just anybody. But I mean, you're not even going to stand up for your friend.
Yeah.
That's terrible.
And I mean, I think it was even more so for him because up to that point, I don't think that he was ever thinking of himself as any different than anyone else. I don't think that, especially because he wasn't dark skinned African
Mhm.
American. I mean, he was mixed race. So, I mean, I think in his mind, it was just like, oh, I just look like I got a better tan than everybody else. Like, I don't think he
Yeah.
really thought much of it. And then all of a sudden you go to this party and these people make you feel like that you're an outcast and that you're completely different. And then none of your friends say anything. Man.
Yeah, I don't know how you just sit there and watch your friend get trashed like that and just not
Yeah.
say anything. I don't know how you do it.
Well, apparently he was pretty pissed off too because,
Mhm.
his grandmother says that kind of threw him into an identity crisis because, he'd never had to deal with that before. But that after that, he separated himself for those so called friends. I mean, I'm not going to call them friends, but they call
Yeah,
themselves friends. I do not.
yeah, and from what I was hearing when the grandmother was talking to Dateline, she's like, and you're right, he just cut him off, and not just like those, like everybody. He's just like, well, you know what? Screw all you guys. Then I'm just gonna.
Yeah.
I don't need this. And I mean, good for him. In a way of standing up for himself. It is sad that you lose all those friends.
Yeah.
And like you said, he was kind of an identity crisis thing. So he's just going through his life. Everything's cool. Everything's fine. Then this one thing at the party happens, and then he's lost everybody.
Yeah. That's gotta suck.
Yeah, yeah,
So bad.
really.
So again, that was at the end of his high school, whatever you want to call it. I don't want to say career, whatever you call it.
Yeah.
I think it was like during his senior year, which was in 2015. So then he graduates from Tumwater High School and decides he wants to attend Washington State, which is in Pullman, correct?
Yeah, it was like 5 hours away from that little city that he lived in. I can never remember Tumwater. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
pretty far away from there. Yeah.
Well, it just kind of made me think. I was like, Pullman, that sounds familiar. And then I'm like, oh yeah, that's Coburger. Okay. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
oh
So,
God.
so almost everybody should know where Washington State University
They
is.
should. Yeah, they
Yeah,
should.
because it's right across the border
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
And I think that this showed to a lot of people that he really was done with those friends and his life there because he decided, I'm gonna get the hell out of here and go 300 miles away.
I mean, yeah. I mean, if nothing else proves it, it's that. I'm out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So sadly, though, his grandmother said that he got there, he started making friends, but he kind of partied too much and didn't go to class, so he failed.
Yeah, yeah. I put in my notes. I put good with friends, bad with grades. I mean, that's basically. I mean, that's basically
So
his,
true.
his his time in college.
Yeah.
But I mean, but it also kind of goes to speak to him as a person because it's not like he only had a few friends and he
Yeah.
and he was like, forget it. Like he was good. He was great at socializing. He was great at making friends. It just it paid. That's what he paid attention to. Some of us get distracted in college. It happens.
Yeah. And hold on, let me see something here. I'm going to share my screen. I'm so great at this, so give me just a second.
It's gonna be a ride, guys. It's gonna be a ride. What's that
Nope.
face you're making, babe?
I'm trying to figure out which one it is because I'm trying to share my screen, but when I look, it doesn't have that screen there. Okay, so I figured it out. Figured out how to share. So this is a picture of him. He is such an adorable kid. I mean, I guess man, but you know,
Yeah.
since I'm old as hell, he seems so young now.
I mean, yeah, he's a good looking dude for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah. Yeah.
And then there's him, you know, playing football.
Mm-hmm.
And then just for future reference, because we're going to talk about, you know, his car
Yeah.
when it was found. That's his car right there. Okay, so there's kind of mixed information out there. I know y'all are shocked because, you know, the internet always gives such great information. But some people said that he just, you know, said to hell with college. He wasn't going to worry about getting his grades up. He's just going home when he fell out.
Mm-hmm.
But I believe his grandmother had said that he was trying to get his grades up at maybe a community college so he could then go back.
Yeah.
But you know, that happens to a lot of freshmen, especially if you're really smart in high school and you're doing well. A lot of times people don't learn the best study habits and they don't really have the ability to party much. And then they get to college and here they are. They don't know how to study very well and they spend all their time hanging out with friends.
Yeah. And sometimes college just isn't for some people.
Yeah,
I mean,
I
you don't
agree.
have to go. Yeah, you don't have to go to college to be successful. It's not a prerequisite.
Yeah.
I mean, it happens. Yeah.
So he moves back in with his grandmother. His half sister Chloe lives there, and then his grandmother's husband. And I say that because that obviously was not his grandfather. It was her, I guess, second husband. Now, at some point, Chloe's boyfriend moved in, and he moved in with his two children.
Yeah, that's a pretty crowded house.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that was kind of the problem because there's been a lot said that, you know, he told his aunt that the boyfriend was a problem, um, you know, that he didn't like him. And then his aunt even said that she felt that he didn't elaborate because he felt scared to talk about it. But I think most people just feel like it was cramped. I mean, that's kind of what the grandmother thought. She's like, they didn't, I mean, they didn't, I think everybody in the family knows they didn't care for one another, but I don't think that there was this huge bottle of animosity more than just like, wow, it's already cramped and then this guy's coming here with his kids.
Yeah. More of an annoyance than leading to, doing something like making him disappear. Like I didn't get that vibe at all when I was listening to different ones about this. I mean, like you said, it just sounded like everything's cramped, and when you're on top of one another like that, little things become big things that are annoying. And,
Yes.
it's really that's kind of how the vibe I got from it.
Yeah. Well, and also when you really like somebody, even if it's a hectic situation, you still enjoy spending time with them. So you're fine with that. But if
Hmm.
they don't like each other, so he already doesn't like this guy, and now he's got to deal with his ass being there with two children, yeah, that's going to be a problem.
I mean, just having somebody else's kids in the house would be enough for me to be like,
At
this is too
19,
much.
yeah,
This is too much. Like I'm not
especially at
even.
19.
Yeah. Like I'm not even related to these kids. Why do I have to deal with
Mhm.
them?
Right.
And I'm saying that for me, not for Logan.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah.
So he moves back in with grandmother, and like I said, I believe he was attending community college, and then he would take odd jobs, just different things. Because I don't think he needed a ton of money, and it wasn't like he was looking for a career yet. So he's just
Yeah.
taking odd jobs here and there, and then he would hang out with some people at night. But my thing is, who the hell was he hanging out with if he ditched all his friends?
I mean, it seems like he made friends pretty easily. I mean, he may have just found a new crowd to hang out with.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you have it in your notes anywhere, but I was listening to some things and it started talking about drug use. And his grandmother was like, look, I mean, he smoked a little weed, but he wasn't a drug dealer. So
Yeah.
a typical 19-year-old kid. I
Right.
mean, because with his disappearance and all the things going on, I don't want people to jump onto he was a drug dealer and something went wrong or he OD'd because it wasn't that at all. His grandmother was like, I mean, yeah, there's a little weed, but let's calm down.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when I read some of her stuff, it said a lot of weed, but at the same time, it's still
I
just
mean,
weed.
I
Just
guess
weed.
I guess for me, as long as it's not laced with anything,
Yeah,
from an ounce to 20 pounds, it's just a little weed.
it's weed. Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
I
And
mean,
you
come on.
got to think too, like he already ditched his old friend group because they clearly suck, even sober. So I'd rather hang out with
Right?
somebody
Yeah,
that
yeah.
smoked a little weed than those jerks. But he also was playing football and all in high school, so it's not like he had probably did not have as much of an ability to go out and drink and smoke and things
Mhm.
that a lot of seniors in high school experiment with. So of course he's probably out there,
And
doing
thinking about it
things.
too, right? Yeah, and like with him being able to just say, "Hey, you guys aren't true friends. I'm done with it." I mean, for me, that sounds like somebody who's really confident and knows who they are. Because
Yeah.
most kids in high school are not going to be like, you know what, you didn't stand up for me, whatever, forget. I mean, they just let that kind of stuff go, but he didn't,
Hmm.
which kind of, I mean, he stood in his convictions, which is
Yeah.
admirable.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it really does say a lot because
Mhm.
people they put up with a lot, even from their own so-called friends.
Yep. Yeah.
So unfortunately, around the time that he started smoking weed, his grandmother and his old friends that said they would see him around and try to talk to him, they all kind of said that he seemed more paranoid. And his grandmother kind of believed that it was the smoking pot that had made him paranoid, which I could see. I
I mean,
mean,
I've never smoked weed, so I don't know how it does that. I'm not sure. Um,
well, I gotta tell you, I did when I was younger a few times, and I mean, it's like, wow. Like you're
yeah.
like, "Oh my god, where are the cops?" Like every noise, you're like, "Oh my god, they found me. They know." Like anybody knows what you're doing. Like
Yeah.
I remember smoking one night when I was like 20, 19 or 20, and a friend who was sober. So get that out of the way. I wasn't riding around with a bunch of messed up friends, but they decided they wanted Burger King. And so I'm like, yeah, I'll ride with you. I'm high as hell, but I'll go. Because, you get the munchies. So you're like, hell yeah, I'll go get a Whopper. I'm sold. But I remember getting there and there were so many people in the drive-through. So we just pulled in and she's like, just let me know what you want. I'll run in and get it. And I was like, okay. And I remember sitting there waiting for her to come back out. And a cop pulled in like 4 spaces over. And all I could think was, oh my God, he come to get me. He's gonna arrest me. Like to this day, I remember that fear I felt. And when she got back in the car and I told her, she laughed her ass off because she's like, are you serious? Like, dude's probably here just getting dinner like everybody else. She's like,
Right,
he's
yeah.
not. I was like, we need to go. Like, he probably knows I'm high right now. Like, it was so ridiculous.
See, and I don't have any of those stories because I didn't have my first sip of alcohol until I was 22. And that was only because I was leaving for basic training. So we had a party. That was the first time I had alcohol. Now, I did make up for my lack of drinking prior to
Yes, you did.
21,
Mm.
but before then, I was good. I was very good. No drugs, no drinking, no nothing. I was an
Well,
altar boy until we met.
no, that is a bold-faced lie. And also, I only got high a handful of times, and that is the only thing I ever did. So it wasn't like I was some big druggie. Okay, so grandmother said, he's getting paranoid. She said there was even times that he would think that there was somebody looking in his bedroom windows and he would lock his bedroom door. Like he was that paranoid about something.
Oh,
So I don't know, I mean, they always say it's just because you're crazy doesn't mean they're not out to get you. And that kind of holds true, Even people that suffer from hallucinations could be in trouble with somebody, like
yeah,
there
yeah.
might still be somebody out to get him. So,
Hmm.
he did turn up missing right after this. So, I don't know. So, the last day that his grandmother saw him was on May 19th of 2016 at home. So she's getting ready to leave work, and Logan tells her that he wants to talk to her about something. And I think the exact way she put it was that he told her he had had an epiphany,
Yeah.
but he didn't tell her what because I think she was kind of in a hurry. Like she was running late. She's trying to get out there. You know how it is when you're trying to leave for work. It's like, we can't start no damn hour long conversation. I'm walking out the door. Like I got to go.
Yeah, and the only reason it seems bad now is because of what happened. I
Yeah,
mean,
exactly.
uh, 99 out of 100 times, your 19-year-old's like, I've had an epiphany. I'm like, okay, that's fine. I'm late for work. Let's talk about this later.
Oh my God. Our
That's
15-year-old
normal.
probably has an epiphany like once a week because we get these crazy ass texts from our child that's like, we need to talk. And we look at each other like, oh my God, did he text you too? Like, what is happening? And he's like, so I've been looking at haircuts and I think I'm like, are you serious
Right.
right now?
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
is your we need to talk.
Yeah.
Okay.
So when he sends me a text when he's at school, we need to talk, and I'm like, you need to learn. And then he
Yeah.
just waits until he gets home and we talk about it then.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, you better turn that damn phone off and pay attention.
Yeah. So I mean, this
Yeah.
this interaction between Logan and his grandmother, I mean, that's everyday life. It
Uh,
only it only has the negative part of it because of what happened. Yeah.
yeah. And at 19, you're trying to find yourself. So anything that you figure out about life at 19 is kind of an
Mhm.
epiphany. You figure out what you want to do, or you've declared a major, or you're like, oh my God, I decided I want to move away and join a cult. Who knows? Whatever it is, it's a big epiphany.
I mean,
So
that is a spectrum. Hey, I want to
I'm
go to
just saying,
college. I want to go to college. I want to be a Scientologist. I mean, like it's going anywhere
I'm
in that,
just
right?
saying, I'm just trying to show the vast differences.
It's
And,
fair.
these are the times I'm glad our show is small because we don't need the Scientologists after us. Thankfully, they will never have heard of us because, they're crazy. Okay, so she leaves, she goes to work, and then when she gets home from work, she noticed that he hasn't been home. And so she checks the location on his phone. Now, when she checks it, she sees that his phone is pinging close to where his mom lives. So she just assumes he's at mom's house. Because, like
Yeah.
I said, he still had a really good relationship with his mom. So he went and saw her all the time. So it
Mhm.
wasn't, a big deal. She's like, he's at his mom's, whatever. Now, sadly, they find out later that mom never even saw him. So he may have been out there near her, but he never made it there if he was going.
Mhm.
So, grandmother's like, okay, he's with his mom, whatever. She didn't think anything of it. And he's 19. So you probably just assume he stayed the night at mom's. But then the
Mhm.
next day, his car, which we saw in the picture, 1996 black Chrysler Sebring convertible, was discovered. It was on the southbound Interstate 5 near milepost 92. That doesn't mean anything to me because I'm horrible with directions, but for anyone who lives there, southbound Interstate 5. What kills me
Yeah.
though is that, well, I'll go into that in a minute because I got some questions about this car situation. Okay, so a woman, like they end up getting a bunch of 911 calls. So a woman reports that earlier she saw Logan with two Caucasian men by his car. And I believe this is when she was going to work. So it had been that morning or early in the day. She said it was parked on the right shoulder of southbound Interstate 5 near exit 95, which is what, three exits away from where the car was ended up being found?
Yeah, because you said at mile marker 92,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Dang,
Yeah.
you might have to look this up because I'm curious. Like, okay, he's going southbound Interstate 5 near milepost 92 when the car is found. Or somebody was going on 92, at milepost 92. So that's where the car's found. When she sees the car, it's on the right shoulder of southbound Interstate 5 near exit 95.
Mhm.
So is 95 like further down the interstate, or would he have gotten to it first? You know what I mean? Like, I'm just trying to figure out like where he was coming from.
So when you're going south, the numbers decrease because I'm thinking about our exit is 238, and then the next one we get off on is 234 when we're heading south. So 95 would have been the exit, and then 3 more miles south would have been where mile marker 92 was at.
See, now that just sounds odd to me then,
Well, I
because
mean, I'm just telling you how roads work.
no, no, no. I know. I'm just saying that if you're at 95 in the morning, exit 95, then you would have to go back to 92 if you've already passed it. So that would mean getting on northbound, going three exits up, getting back on southbound, and then break. That's so odd.
Yeah, I think a lot of it. I mean, this whole car situation is what really makes it odd, um,
Yeah.
because of all the other things that go along with this. I mean, but yeah, I mean that should be how it goes. Interstate 5, it should be 95, 94, 93, 92. So as you're heading south, the mile markers are going to decrease.
It's so wild. So again, she says she sees him with two Caucasian men. Is parked on the side of the road. That was the morning of May 20th, and she's driving to work. She said that she then passed the location again on her way home from work. The car was still parked in the same spot, but now it had the hood up on it. So I'm just like, what? It's so odd. So she describes the men, and this is why I was talking about his ethnicity, because I wanted to make sure that, we covered like how people may or may not have been confused about their
Mhm.
eyewitness, description. She says one of the men was 6 feet tall with a very thin build, straight blonde hair in a bowl cut. Wow, I forgot people had bowl cuts ever. I can't even. I mean, like, wow. I mean, I do remember my little brothers having them when they were little, but like a grown ass man with a bowl cut is just
I
wow.
mean, when I think of bowl cuts, I think of Dumb and Dumber. Jim Carrey had that
Yes,
haircut. Yeah,
yes.
yeah, yeah.
And also, she said that he had a tank top and jeans on, but that the jeans were too short and the tank top was too small. So this man out here just wearing like baby Gap clothes. I
Like
don't even.
he's in jeans and a crop top. Is that what you're
Yeah,
telling me? Yeah.
it's
Okay.
nuts, right? So, she was able to provide a sketch though, which I think I do have a picture of, but I didn't put it on there on that thing. So, oh, yeah, it's a very generic looking sketch. I
Yeah.
mean, it don't look like anybody. So, anyway, um, the other man she described as having shoulder length blonde hair, wearing a flannel shirt and jeans. So, I believe the way she explained it was that he was turned to the side, so she couldn't see his face. She just saw like his profile. So she couldn't really get a description of him, but she was able to give a description of the other person. Again, there was 3 different people that called 911, and they all talked about seeing a car drifting across 3 lanes of traffic, very low speed, and then it hitting a center barrier,
Mhm.
which ends up being where they find it. And I should have looked this up too, I guess on like Google to see. Well, I was just thinking right now, like, I imagine if you search Google, you can search by like mile marker, right? So like we could see where the car was found.
Yeah. You continue. I'll look this up while you're doing that.
Okay. See, this is why I didn't look it up, because you can do that.
Yeah.
So one of the callers was a truck driver, and he says that he saw a white man with either light brown or red hair crawl across the center console and jump out of the moving vehicle on the passenger side and run towards the woods. When they find the car, it was left in gear and had drifted into the barrier. So whoever got out of this car, they didn't stop the car and get out of it. They didn't crash and then get out of it. The damn thing was still rolling, he says, and they just jumping out.
Mm-hmm.
Police get there, no sign of Logan, no sign of anyone else around the car, near the car, anything. So they impound the car.
Mm-hmm.
They showed a picture of Logan to the witness, and he said that that was not who he saw get out of the car. So he doesn't have an exact description. The description is a little vague, which makes sense, but he is sure it wasn't Logan, he says. So Logan's grandmother, this is on the 20th. Now, Logan's grandmother said she wanted to report him missing on Saturday, the 21st, when he still hadn't returned home. But when she got to the sheriff's office, they were closed. Now, I did not realize the sheriff's office closed, so I was so confused about that.
Yeah, it's probably just a small like satellite office in that area that was closed. I mean, obviously the sheriff's department's not closed for the day, but I guess that one little office was, which sounds weird when you say the sheriff's department was closed.
It does. But I will say this: I've seen a lot because I don't quote Reddit as like a source, but I go to Reddit a lot of times when we're looking at cases because those are the kinds of places I know they got shit on there that people are just talking trash, but they're also the kind of places where people that actually know these people end up talking, and you'll end up getting little tidbits. And we always make sure to tell you guys if it's something that has not been verified. We tell you, heard it on Reddit, heard it on here, heard it on there, wherever. But a lot of times you're able to at least go see something on Reddit, and then you can go try to investigate that or see, like, is that stuff true or whatever. So during that, I saw a lot of people talking a lot of shit about this grandmother, and I don't think that that is fair to her. Um, they were like, well, okay, if it was closed, why didn't she go somewhere else or do something else? Probably because she didn't think that he was never going to come home. He's 19. You think my 19-year-old grandson hasn't come home and he should be here. I don't really know exactly where to start, and I only have the manpower of me. So maybe I call the cops and let them go out and find him because I know his ass is out high somewhere. It's probably what she's thinking, like, you're muted, I believe.
It's something like this when it first happens. Your first instinct isn't, oh my God, they've disappeared. I'm never going to see them. And oh my God, they're murdered. For me anyway, my first instinct is like, Jesus Christ, now I got to go find this kid.
Yeah.
I mean, that's usually how I feel. Like, that's how I go. And was this a situation where they showed up and the cops were like, look, he's an adult. He can be missing if he wants. I mean, did she run into that?
That I don't know.
Okay.
Because here's the thing, like, it wasn't until she got there on the 23rd that they were able to put two and two together that, hey, this car we impounded the other day is Logan's. But you know what? I guess maybe they did, because she gives them the description of Logan and the description of the car. And this is when police realized, oh, hell, that's the car we impounded the other day. But they must have been giving her that runaround because they let her go get the car from impound. Like, you'll
Yeah.
find a car that just rolls the hell to a stop. Somebody's jumping out of it who clearly is not the owner of the car. And you don't think that might sound a little sketchy now that his grandmother's there to file a missing persons report? How you just going to let her go get the damn car?
Yeah, because they let it sit in the impound lot. They weren't able to pull any evidence off of it at all because it had been sitting there for like 6 days.
Good gosh.
Yeah.
So grandmother says the inside, and a lot of this stuff is just like whatever, like video games, clothes, movies, all right. But there was a blanket in there. And I think, had there been video games, movies, clothes just by themselves, or none of this had happened, you'd be like, yeah, teenagers would be changing clothes. They just throw them in the backseat. But I think the fact that there was a blanket, movies, games, that kind of sounds like, could he possibly have been going somewhere that he was going to stay for a few days? Did he think he needed a blanket and clothes? Was he taking movies and games to play and watch wherever he was going?
Yeah.
Just a thought, don't know. But there was $20, and they said along with his wallet. So I'm guessing the $20 was not in a wallet. I think it was just maybe in the console or something, but don't quote me on that. So $20, his wallet, phone, and his ID. Now that's concerning to me.
Yeah, because I mean, with his wallet, his phone, money being there, I mean, that screams, disappearance. Didn't mean to go off and not tell anybody, but it also says that if somebody did make him disappear, robbery wasn't the motive.
Yeah. Now I will say this though, if this was 2000, well, no. I was going to say 2016, maybe he didn't have his phone, but I mean, even in 2016, my phone went everywhere with me.
Yeah.
I'm thinking more high school, but I forget that, I'm a 15 whole ass years older than him. So that was, long, way before his time.
Trust me, he had his phone with him.
Yeah,
all the
right.
time. Yeah.
I mean, you would think. So the weirdest thing to me is that it was listed that there were groceries in the passenger seat. But I did go back and look, and it doesn't sound like groceries like you and I would go get groceries, like milk, cereal, bread. the same shit we eat week after week after week, like the same
like,
four
like
things we get.
like the adult shopping list for groceries:
Yeah,
milk,
right.
bread, cereal. Yeah.
This looked more like a gas station kind of bag of like snacks.
Mhm.
So, but
Mhm.
again, that kind of makes you think like, why is he getting all this big old bag of food along with a blanket and movies? I don't know. That kind of just seems like it might be something. I don't know. That's just me. That's just me.
Yeah.
But another thing that I thought about, and I think the police did too, is that it would be very hard for someone to have crawled across the console and got out the passenger side without disturbing those groceries or, whatever you want to call them.
Yeah, that is true. Especially if they were getting out while the car was rolling across the interstate.
Yeah. Like, how was that stuff not? I don't know. That just seems odd. And why climb over it to get out the passenger side? I mean, that makes absolutely no sense to me.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it doesn't. It doesn't make any sense at all. None of this does.
No. I will say though, so the woman sees the car in the morning, then she sees it on the way home, and then I think this happens afterwards. So it was at night. So maybe he just thought he saw something he didn't see. Because I mean, until the door opens, the light inside is not on, I don't think. So
Not
how could
unless
he
you
have
turn it on, but yeah.
yeah, so like maybe he just thought he saw that. I don't so
Yeah.
the sheriff's office looked into the cell phone data and they learned that in the hours before his car was ditched on the freeway, his cell phone had traveled south on I-5 from Olympia to Vancouver, Washington, before turning around and heading back toward the Olympia area where the vehicle was found. But they have no idea if the phone was with him at this time. It's just his phone traveled.
Yeah, and I don't, because I know that his mom was, I believe, in Portland, which is really close to Olympia. But did he know it? Did they know of him knowing anybody in Vancouver?
I don't think so because I think that
Um,
was the thing. Like, why the hell was he in Vancouver? What does that? Since you had the stuff pulled up, can you see what the distance is from Olympia to Vancouver? Like
yeah,
time, travel, miles, whatever.
yeah, I'll give you all that. Yeah, because I mean, the whole thing was like just trying to figure out if anybody knew him in Vancouver.
So he's on I-5 southbound, which they said his phone traveled southbound on I-5 from Olympia to Vancouver.
Yeah, which
Okay.
is
First of
it's
all,
a
let me ask you this though, so I don't confuse myself.
okay.
Where is Olympia in relation to where his car was found at that mile marker? Is that Olympia right there?
I believe so. It's a little harder for me to find that on my Google Maps here.
Gotcha.
Um, but yeah, it's going to be a whole lot closer to Olympia because Tumwater is just south of Olympia, and Vancouver is 106 miles south um, of Olympia. And let's see, I'm just trying to. Oh, okay. And apparently I misspoke. Portland is closer to Vancouver, right there. But yeah, it's 106 miles south, so an hour and a half from Olympia to Vancouver.
Okay. And so, wait, but am I looking? If I'm looking at this right, which I believe I am, Tumwater to Olympia is north, isn't it?
Yeah.
So he left Tumwater at some point, drove to Olympia, and then they see in the hours before he was going from Olympia back down to Vancouver. Where is Vancouver? I can't even find it on this map. Oh, I see it now. I see it. I see it. Okay, near Portland. All right.
Yeah.
Well, that looks like a good little ways.
Yeah. I mean, it's over 100 miles.
I'm trying to see if I can see on this map that I've got pulled up the mile markers to see exactly where that's at. Probably not. Y'all know I don't know how to read this stuff, so I'm not sure I would be able to find it anyway.
I was proud of you that you knew it was south.
Because I'm looking at a map. That's the only reason. I would never figure this out without a map.
Well, all right. Let's continue. You need to do your research before we start recording.
I'm not good with places. That's why I let you do that.
I know,
I'm
I know,
just trying to
I know.
figure out, like, and a lot of stuff doesn't occur to me until I'm talking it through with you, explaining it to you. Because I'm just thinking, at some point, he's in Tumwater. He goes
Mhm,
towards Olympia, and then in the hours before all this, his car is seen driving south, or not seen. His cell cell phone records show
mhm,
Olympia to Vancouver, but then it would be back up there near Olympia again.
mhm.
So it's so odd to me.
I mean,
Huh.
because the thing about it is did the car was the cell phone with Logan in the car
Yeah.
traveling all of that? Did somebody else have his cell phone? But if they took his cell phone, they did all that. Why would they come back and then drop and put the phone back in the car? Makes no
Yeah.
sense. I mean, and like you said, as we're talking through this, you start thinking, which I think is why a lot of people listen to us because they like going on the journey as well. But you know,
Let's
they
hope.
they don't come to us for some polished, perfect shit. They're like, no, we're going to take this ride with them. We're going to take this ride with them.
I mean, we're not investigative journalists. Like, I hope one day we can be boots on the ground searching and looking and getting into stuff. But, and I'm not saying this to try to get anyone to send us money. That is not my intent. I'm just
God,
saying this
no,
to be
no.
honest. But, like, I'm just saying, unless we were to get a lot bigger, we have full time jobs. So, for this to be our full time job so that we could be boots on the ground like a lot of these podcasters and YouTubers are, we would have to have a significant following.
Yeah.
We do not at this point in time. So we do not have the ability to be boots on the ground. So this is the
Yeah.
investigation you get. This is
And
a little bit of investigation we can do.
and if you know me, you know like you're not even getting like the fourth article down on a Google search for me.
Ugh,
Like I'm very like you're gonna get the highlights from me. So it's a good thing you are on here. So there is a
yeah.
little bit of deeper stuff, but
Yeah. I try to
yeah,
do research because I know you're not
well,
going to. So,
no, I'm not.
okay. So they bring search dogs out, didn't find anything. So police searched his room at grandma's house. They obviously had his phone. They get his laptop. They don't find anything. They Well, okay, I take that back. They initially found something, but then it turns out to be nothing. That's why I say
Mm,
they found nothing. Okay, so they did find the week he disappeared, he sent a message to a girl he had met online. So he had been on a dating app, met this girl. They were talking a lot. However, they did find out after talking to her that they never met, and it didn't seem like he had any intention of meeting her. It was just a, flirty thing over the app. But he did tell her that week, quote, "I hope to survive this week," end quote. Now, I don't know what that means.
yeah, because given what happened, I mean,
Yeah.
it seems ominous. But I mean, it could have been anything. 'Cause
Yeah.
especially at that age. You're like,
Yeah.
oh my God, I hope I survive this. Oh my God, my life is over. So it's, we say very dramatic things at that
Mhm.
age. Because I mean, think about it. If you had two jobs and you're going to work more hours than you normally do, oh my God, I hope I make it to this week. If you got finals at school, oh my God, I hope. So I mean, it
Exactly.
may have meant something. It may have meant nothing, but it does add to the what the hell happened,
Yeah.
in this case. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, we don't know if that meant anything or not. They do all that, they don't get anywhere. So then they decide, okay, let's go back to square one and listen to some 911 calls from that day, which is actually very smart, I think,
Yeah.
because if one person or two, three people's calling 911, why not see if anything else was going on in this tiny little town?
Yeah.
So when listening to the 911 calls, they find a call from a woman who said that she saw a man who met Logan's description walking along the road nude from the waist down, which already sounds insane. Like, really? So you got a
Yeah.
shirt on and you're just butt ass naked, or what? Other than that,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
so odd.
And eyewitness accounts are terrible. They're almost always, well, they're never accurate perfectly. And sometimes they're way the hell off. But I would like to think that if you saw somebody on the side of the road walking with just a shirt on, I,
Yeah.
I want to hope that you knew what you saw and you remembered exactly what you saw. I mean, that's not common, clearly. So I mean, you would
Yeah.
hope that that one would be accurate.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like seeing somebody walking down the road with their penis hanging out would imprint on you in some way. You know, like I'm just saying, like
Oh,
I feel like
oh.
that'd stick with you. It's not a very attractive organ, so seeing it just walking around with no clothes on, I feel
Or
like that's gonna stick with you.
or that's just a Tuesday in Tumwater. We're not sure, but
Well, that is true. That is
I
true.
feel like that's universally like what the fuck.
That is true. That is true. And I think another thing that made them think possibly, it could have been just somebody out of it is because that area was known to be a high drug area, like a place where maybe there was a lot of dope dealing going on and stuff. So that, along with his behavior in the prior months, made police think that he was using drugs. So, they kind of went down that rabbit hole of he got high, started taking his clothes off. But they're not even sure this was Logan. None of us are. We don't know.
Yeah, and how horrible for a missing persons investigation when you have somebody that's old enough to be allowed to be missing, as they like to say, and then you throw in a witness saying they saw somebody with no pants on in a high drug area. I mean, that's gonna potentially hit the brakes on an investigation. I mean, that
Mm-hmm.
may not put a lot of stock into this person's missing due to foul play. It's just another druggie. I mean, it's sad, and I hope that's not what happened here.
Yeah. So I mean, they really only have that this one comment he makes to this girl, which I gotta tell you, people are not as nosy as I am, I guess, because I would be like, "What do you mean you're not going to survive?" Like, I mean, like I ask follow up questions. I'm nosy. I want to know shit. So to me, it's like, why is somebody going to tell you I may not survive the week, and you don't care enough about them to ask why?
But he had met her on a dating app, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And had they ever met face to face?
No, and I don't think they
Yeah,
had any intention of meeting. So
yeah. Which may be why she was like, "Oh, whatever, this dude sent me," Because I mean, I know he texted a female, but I mean, this wouldn't be shocking if he texted another dude and there was no follow up question.
exactly, but
I
this
mean,
was a
that's
girl.
yeah,
You
because
think
that's
there'd
the
be
way we
follow up?
are. But she never met him, so she could have been like, "All right, I'm not dealing with this dude," or she was
Yeah,
just, she kind of brushed it off because they didn't really know each other that well.
that's true. That's true. So they only got that, and then they learn that Logan was asking about his dad before his disappearance. I can't even talk.
Hmm.
So then the police wonder if he tried to travel outside the country to go see his dad. So they think he's having this, which kind of makes sense, as a theory that, he's having this identity crisis. He wants to know more about the other parts of his family. And, he just found out who his dad is. So maybe he decided to hop on a plane. But that kind of seems unlikely considering his license was in his car.
Well, that and his whole ass car is on the side of the road.
Yeah. So,
I
like, how
mean,
did he get where to
like,
travel?
yeah. No matter what theory they have, I mean, if it's not foul play and it's not drug related, I don't think it's drug related. But if it's not one of those two things, he's gonna need his car.
Yeah.
Whatever theory it is. If he wanted to leave on his own accord, he needs his car. If he
Yeah.
wants to fly to the airport, fly out of the airport, he needs his car. And like you said, his license.
Mhm.
Very important to have those things. So I mean,
Yeah.
it all goes back to the car on the side of the road with all the stuff on it.
Yeah. Now I know when he, started really wanting to know a lot about the other people in his family, didn't you say that you had read some about him meeting some of the African American part of his
Hmm.
family, his grandfather's family?
Yeah, he had met several of them. He met his aunt who was she's giving the interview. She's talking about him. Of course, she gets pretty upset because she had just met him, and then he disappears. So she feels like she missed out on meeting him. But I mean, because she did. But yeah, he had met that side of his family, quite a few people. So I could see how I might be curious and want to know, because I
Yeah.
mean this whole this case when we started it was basically jumping right from the point where he was like, well, I guess my friends don't have my back, so whatever. And then he's kind of like, who am I? Where am I from? He meets all his family. So it also, like, it doesn't, the whole he left on his own, that doesn't hold a lot of weight on this because he had just started meeting the other part of his family. Why would he
Yeah.
disappear? I mean, it doesn't make sense why he would just bounce after that.
Yeah, I kind of wondered that too. I'm like, he's so excited about meeting these people. He meets them and it goes well by all
Yeah,
accounts, very
yeah.
well. So that seems odd. I do know that there has been some, I don't want to say animosity, but some disagreement about the situation. I know that his aunt said that um, they had not met him because of his grandmother, that she really, tried to keep him away from them because you got to think the African American part. I mean, his dad's Saudi Arabian, so he didn't have the African American ancestry from his dad. It was his grandfather, and
Mhm.
grandma and grandpa been split up for a long time. So, I'm sure there wasn't a great relationship there. But so the aunt says that she just kind of kept him away and didn't tell him anything. And that when he came and visited, he said, "Don't tell my grandmother that I was here because she'll be upset." But now the grandmother says that that was not the case at all. She said, "I've never kept him from his family. It's just that me and his grandfather split up and he never made any, like he never came around. He didn't even see our daughter. Like he didn't try to come around and see him, and none of his family they didn't say anything to me about seeing him, so I didn't really, reach out either." So I think all
Mhm.
of that's probably just a disagreement and family stuff, but I think they all really loved him.
Yeah.
I think that they had anything to do with it.
No, I don't. Everything. I mean, everything that I've listened to, there's nothing that would lead me to believe that anyone in the family had any part of this. And I know even his sister's boyfriend. I mean, the cops dug into that. They looked into him, and they cleared him as well. Wasn't that? I don't. Hmm. And when families argue, it's whatever. But then if somebody from the family goes missing, now those little disagreements could seem a lot bigger
Yeah,
because of this. Um,
yeah. So that we'll go into theories, but as far as the story, that's all I have on it. I mean, that's all I
mhm.
could find. He's described, like, again, we showed the picture. He's described as 6 foot tall, weighing approximately 170 to 190 pounds, black hair, brown eyes. They said that, in the picture that we had, his hair looked a little long, but they said he usually had it shaved. When he was last seen, he was wearing a black windbreaker, jeans, a white shirt, and possibly Nike sneakers. He has a small scar on his left forearm below his elbow. He's allergic to nuts and usually carries an EpiPen on him, but it is unknown whether he had one at the time of his disappearance. If anyone out there hears this and has any information, and it doesn't have to, sometimes we don't know what we know. So even if it's something tiny, that is their job. That's what they get paid for. Call
Mhm.
the police and let them know. You can contact the Thurston County Sheriff's Office at 360-786-5500 or Crime Stoppers. Their number is 1-800-577-8477. So that is it for him. Now, theories. Um, you're talking about the boyfriend. I think that that aunt that he met, believes that Chloe's boyfriend had something to do with it.
Yeah,
So she
and
thinks that.
but the cops talked to him. The cops said he was
Yep.
cooperative. He took a polygraph and passed
Yep.
it, and they ruled him out. So I mean,
Yeah. I think
I
the aunt was concerned because he had a criminal record with assault and domestic violence convictions, not just arrests,
yeah,
but
yeah, no,
convictions.
they were convictions for sure. And I mean, I could see how you would get there because I mean, you look at everything else. He doesn't have any issues with the rest of his family or anything else. This is the only person that he's had any kind of disagreements with, whether they were huge or not. So I mean, it's not a leap to get there to where
Yeah.
it's the boyfriend. But I mean, if we're basing it off of his cooperation in law enforcement's investigation, I mean, he didn't do it
Yeah.
based on
Exactly.
that. I
And I
mean,
believe the sister and him stayed together. They may still be together. I don't know. Another theory is that he was suffering from mental illness and is possibly out there somewhere. I think that could be a likely thing. I mean, with the paranoia, schizophrenia usually presents in late teens, early 20s. I don't know if there's any family history of it, but hell, how would we know? His
That
dad's in
is
Saudi Arabia.
that
Like,
is that is very true. It is hard to track down, any kind of history of mental illness in the family
yeah,
because there's so many parts of his family that he never met. Um, in listening to some of the interviews with the grandmother, she's upset that she didn't ask more about this epiphany that he had.
oh, bless her heart.
Yeah, and she thinks that whatever that was led him to the person that she thinks killed him. Now she doesn't know who that person is, but
Yeah.
she doesn't think that he's still alive.
I
That person.
wonder what she thinks it could be. Like, if she thinks it was like an epiphany about family, or I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know because I mean, and that's you could tell that she's very upset about not asking more. But like we said earlier, that's just I mean that's a normal
Yeah,
conversation that so many people have every day.
exactly.
It's only where it's at right now because of what happened.
You
Um,
know, I could see how she would think that though, because his car was first seen when this woman was on her way to work. So that's early. This is probably like right after he talked to his grandmother, he got in the car and left, or
mm,
whatever. And so, I mean, whatever happened started, you would think then, because it's at that point that shit goes haywire. His
yeah.
car's seen all over the place. His phone's traveling all these places and back. So that's interesting.
Yeah, and when we talk about these theories, obviously it's speculation, and you don't really want to speculate to something that you think it is. Too, like I'm locked in on this, but the drug thing kind of like, and I hate going to that because it's something that people go to all the time. I
Yeah.
mean, the drug thing kind of makes sense if he was, had some mental health struggles that he was working through, had some kind of epiphany. I don't know what that could have been, but I mean, car left on the side of the road. I mean, not just left. It's not like he parked it. I mean, the thing traveled across all lanes.
Yeah.
And I mean, potentially you could see somebody. Maybe he got some weed that was laced with something. And
That's kinda what I wondered about, or even, like, I don't know, necessarily laced with, like, other hard drugs, because I only say that because those drugs are more expensive probably than weed, so it kinda doesn't seem very economical. However, what about spice and synthetic stuff that people sell as weed and pass off? Because you can buy that shit over the counter and then turn around and sell it.
yeah, and that stuff's bad, really
Yeah.
bad. Yeah, I mean, it's the only thing that makes the most sense to me. I don't. There's not enough going on here. I know we've talked about the crop top bowl cut hair dude, and then the other guy, flannel shirt. But I don't know. There's just not a whole lot that kind of leads back to anybody that was with him. Did they
Yeah.
travel all the way, in Vancouver and all those places with him? So I don't know. For me, it just kind of sounds like it may have been maybe he got some bad drugs. And remember what I said at the beginning of this: an ounce to 10 pounds, weed is weed. Like it's
Yeah.
just a little weed. Like I don't have. Like, I mean, he can smoke all the weed he wants, but I think maybe he may have gotten into some that wasn't great, and it
Mhm.
caused him to, you know, whatever, hallucinate or whatever, and it caused him to just kind of walk away from his car. And then who knows what happened after that?
Yeah. Now, that, or some people think maybe a head injury from the wreck, but I mean, the car was going like 3 and hit the little divider, and it doesn't even seem like he was the one driving it. So I don't think that's very likely. The only
Hmm.
thing with the drug thing is he got out disoriented, whatever, walks off. It's not like it's a huge, dense forest. So they say that any woods he would have walked into off the road just back up to like subdivisions. So where the hell did he go? I mean, that's wild.
Yeah, and I mean, what if he was potentially murdered early in the day, and then whoever did it had something to do in Vancouver, so they drove all the way down there, and they were like, you know what, we're going to take the car back up there and just kind of ditch it on the side of a road.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if that, and maybe they just left everything in there the way they could just say, yeah, they just walk away from it, and then hopefully what happened. Oh, it's just some kid that we can't find now. He's missing, and nothing led back to them because I mean they also didn't find any evidence in the car. They weren't able to lift prints or anything
Yeah.
like that. So I mean, if somebody did murder him, I mean, I don't necessarily think it's the perfect crime. I think it's all the things that happen perfectly. So like the car being out there and then impounded for almost a week before they actually knew, it belonged to this kid who's missing. And I think a lot of things just may have fallen into place to make it appear like the perfect crime, if that's what happened.
Yeah.
Because I
Yeah,
mean, nobody commits the
absolutely.
perfect murder. I mean, there's always something. So I don't know.
I think the only other two that I've seen, one, some people think he died by suicide. They think that, it just became too much for him, everything going on, and something happened that was just the last straw. Like he loses his friends, he goes to school, he fails out, but I don't know. He seemed to be it's hard because people think they would see the signs, but you don't. You don't
I
always
mean,
sometimes there's no signs.
yeah, I mean, you do see the signs once it happens, and you go back and you see all these little bitty things, but you're looking at it from the lens who just lost somebody. I mean, it's
Exactly.
easy. It's easy to connect the dots when you already know the answer. I
Yeah.
mean, so that's obvious. And I mean, I know that people who die by suicide, they still kind of keep the same routines, but it just seems kind of strange that he just met family that he's never met before.
Yeah.
He is, I mean, he had never met up with her, but he's on dating apps, talking
Yeah.
to people. It just doesn't seem like somebody who would go from that to, suicide. But that's not to say it didn't happen. But it's just there's a lot of stuff going on that
Yeah.
doesn't really get you to that point.
Especially since he did say that to his grandmother that morning about an epiphany. It's like, I doubt if his epiphany was, I'm done with this world, he would have been telling his grandma. So
Yeah.
I kind of feel like that ain't what it was. The only other thing that I saw somebody throw out there as a theory, and I was like, huh, okay. So they were saying, what if the car was messed up? So Logan pulls over on the side of the road. These two white guys stop to help him. And maybe they're going to give him a ride, or they're talking about weed, drugs, whatever. They end up killing him. And then later they decide they're going to go back and jack this car. And then, they think they got it fixed and it ends up going dead again. So they just bail out, and run it off the side of the road. The only thing, though, again, to me, is where the car was found because of the southbound and northbound thing. It's very confusing to me, and I don't have any answer for that. It's just confusing. Like, that's it. It's just confusing. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, the whole thing is because there's because when we talk about these cases, I'm not saying I'm right, but I have a pretty good idea of what I think happened on all. When we talk about a lot of these, this one, like, I got nothing.
Nothing.
Like there's like everything is a possibility, so nothing makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense, right? The way I said it, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I
No,
mean,
absolutely.
it really, it makes no sense at all.
It really does not. I mean, at all. So, but that's it. That's all I got.
Yeah,
I hate to say that. I wish there were more, but unfortunately, there's not.
yeah. And I mean, this is just one of hundreds, thousands of cases where they're missing. And going back to the grandmother, saying that she doesn't think he's alive, so she just wants him back so she can
Yeah.
have a place to bury him, which is which is a whole lot of families in this situation. But I mean, it is sad when people give up hope and then they just like, look, I'm resigned to it. This is what happened. I just want my boy back. And it's just, gosh, it's just, so heartbreaking.
It truly is. I mean, it truly, truly is. It's so sad.
Mm,
I hate, hate, hate to even think that anybody's having to deal with this. I can't imagine how hard that is to deal with.
yeah, yeah. But that is everything for this case. Make sure you go out and listen to the other cases, not because we need the downloads or whatever. I mean, it really is about the people that we're talking about. There's a lot of other cases that we've discussed of people that are missing and need to be found. And I mean, in Logan's case, they did say that tips have been coming in from all over the country, and none of them have led anywhere. And I only say that because just because we live in Podunk, Alabama, doesn't mean we may not see something that is related to his case or another one. So it's like you said earlier, any little thing that you think may be something helpful to these cases, I mean, just contact the detective. It's just,
Yeah.
hey, I don't know what I saw. I don't know if it has anything to do with it, but here's what happened. And then let them do their job.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, that's, ugh. I don't like talking about these. I know that's what
I
our
know.
podcast is about, but I don't like talking about these at all.
I know.
It keeps me up at night thinking about this kind of stuff. You know, but
Yeah, it really does.
so anyway, that's it for this case. I don't know when we're going to have a next one. We told you that at the beginning because we do a lot of live stuff on our YouTube channel. So just make sure you subscribe. That way, when we do put out an episode, you guys are listening to the stories and seeing if you know anything that can help.
And you can always check us out on YouTube. Then you can hear
Yeah.
everything we're doing when you're not hearing the podcast.
Yeah. And I mean, I put the description or the link to our YouTube channel and all our socials and all that in the descriptions of the podcast. So you can find it that way, or just go to YouTube and search Crime on the Record. We're the only one. So it's easy to find.
Yeah.
Pretty easy to find. Yeah. Well, yeah. So until next time, guys, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. However you do it, we appreciate it. Talk to you then.
Bye.